Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Camera Tuesday, we're gonna talk about Canon EOS R1. So let's dive deep into it. So this puppy R1 is top mirrorless flagship from Canon. Canon is calling this puppy a flagship, and flagship simply means this is the best we can give you and money is no object. Meaning the price of these things are, don't ask. If you have to ask, you can't afford it. That kind of price we are talking about. So in Indian rupees, that's 6,30,000 rupees. Actually more than that, bit more than that. And even in dollars, it's $6,300. That's bonkersly large amount of money. That is like a actual car kind of price money. So, and be mindful, only body, not even lens. So I have no idea. Like this would be the target price I will have, like for a quality lens, for a quality body, and few batteries. This is like, nah bro, just one body. So it is on a whole different level. Now why do company build this sort of behemoth? Well, the reality is these things are designed to take a lot of abuse, meaning these are not designed to be pampered. They are like, oh, you dropped it, the camera broke. No, if you drop this and it breaks, you return this puppy. Meaning these things are designed to take abuse. The metal used, the construction build, the weather sealing, all of these things are designed in such a way that it can take a beating. You're supposed to take these puppy to Afghanistan, you're supposed to take this to Gaza Strip and all that, and it still should work. It does not matter how hot it is, does not matter how cold it is, these things should survive. Now because camera companies have never evolved from 1980, they are reaching a point where there is like tiny camera body cannot dissipate the heat enough. Even though be mindful, the amount of crunching they do, your mobile SoC does that in 1/5 of the power of these things. That Digicax and all that, this sounds fancy, it's like, it's ancient technology. So this time like, okay, we have a heat dissipation, and that's why I am so angry with them. It's like, do you know what technology we use for our smartphone to make sure that SoC do not cook itself? We use vapor chamber. Now like, isn't this the same thing? Aluminum alloy plate. Here's the deal. If you have the sensor dumping the heat, aluminum has a certain speed, how quickly it can dissipate the heat. It's not that fast. If it was copper, bit faster. If it was vapor chamber, which mind you, nowadays because of mobile phone development, vapor chambers are very thin, like less than a millimeter thin. You can dissipate same amount of energy, let's say 5 watt of SoC power can be dissipated in this area so quickly, and the temperature will be less of the SoC. Not because like it's magically cooling, it's simply because it's dissipating enough. The aluminum is not fast enough. That's why we have to develop vapor chamber. That's why computers need it, servers need it, laptop need it. This company, yeah, we're gonna achieve that in 2050. It's like, nowadays those are mass produced. They're like, what if we have aluminum? I'm like, what if you had copper? At least would have made some sense. Or what if cheap aluminum, little bit pricey, vapor chamber. And vapor chamber are not that expensive. It's available in very cheap prices nowadays. So basically it's a tool that was designed to work in all conditions, meaning you should not need to pamper it. This will be like, I got this. Basically this is a tool where it's like, I got this. You pick up the tool out of the bag, it's ready to go. You do not have a discussion about this. So everything about this is designed to be more robust, more long lasting. And yes, this sort of cameras do last, and people have been using, like, for few years. So what kind of pro features we are looking at? Well, it's a whole another level of AI and autofocus. Now be mindful, autofocus have crossed a threshold where it's all cameras, basically Nikon, Canon and Sony. If they give you a good system, Nikon is a bit behind, but even in their series, if you have their flagship or the Z6 Mark III, if I'm not mistaken, they have the latest SoC. It actually has good autofocus, meaning if I point to this, it will autofocus. That's not an issue anymore, and it can do that at very high speed. So what does this mean, AI autofocus? It simply means it can figure out where to autofocus. Let that be very clear. Autofocus, basically, I point here, you click, you focus here, that's done, that's sorted. In 2020 we got that. But what now? Now is, what if I tell you where to focus? What if I can study the scene? Oh, it's a football. You selected football, and it's like, okay, ball is moving. So it can analyze the trajectory, move the lens element before the photographer can know where it will be, and just pre-ready. Basically, it's coming in this direction. Move the lens to compensate for it. Calculate how much pre-motion you need in order to reach exactly there. There is no hunting anymore. Even though modern cameras can do hunting at ludicrously high speed, you don't need to. It's like, I know what is gonna happen. Trajectory calculations. So even when you see Sony, it's like they have the pose detection. What it's doing, it's doing trajectory calculation. These things have points, and they're calculating the trajectory, how the person walks, and the AI part is helping with that calculation. So same thing is here on a whole another level. And why that is so different compared to R5? Well, simply because the sensor has one core advantage. So be mindful, if sensor is the weak link, does not matter how good your SoC is, it's not gonna work. So you have to feed quality data to SoC. So they are feeding the quality data from a very high refresh rate sensor, meaning a stacked sensor that has very high refresh rate. On top of that, that alone is good. This extra good is that they not only have vertical line detectors, they have horizontal line detector also, meaning they have two polarization working with each other, meaning the absolute ability of autofocus is extremely high. Now be mindful, vertical lines are like 95%, I would say. So adding this horizontal line on one green pixel, basically take 24 megapixel divide by 4, so that number is of horizontal line. Benefit of this is like now the hit rate is like 95%. Now again, this is for the SoC. So from SoC's point of view, they can predict more than enough, fast enough, that is genuinely on a next level. Basically, this is why this can do a lot of AI predictive calculations far more effectively compared to R5. Because again, the horizontal line gives it a bit more domain, just like, okay, I see you, I see you. Now eye targeting has been improved, basically utilizing your eye to tell your camera, please focus on this. It's not doing the focus based on your eye. It's like you have 5-6 faces. The eye autofocus, basically eye control system, should allow you to like, okay, focus on this, focus on that, focus on that. And if the camera is high burst rate enough, it is like you can look at everyone's faces and you feel like, hey, I know whose bride and groom is. Like you can always look into their face. Camera is like, I got you, fam. I have detected so many faces, I do not know what face to focus on. The eye will be like, I get you, you are focusing, looking at this, I will take care of it. Now be very mindful, this is Mark II technology, not Mark 1, so it's a bit improved, but this system is way too finicky to be absolute, meaning our eyes are not same. Some people have a bit of motion, some people have different contrast not for you, but contrast from the optics of this puppy. So different people are getting different experience. Some people are like, I put it, I calibrate it, done, go home, awesome. Other people are like, I sometimes need to, recalibrate once in a while. Other people are like, dude, it's just not calibrating for me. So be mindful. If you are trusting the system, please test in a shop before you buy it. Because again, you may not get the experience you are desiring. Again, it's better to be safe than sorry. It's a Mark II, should be a bit better than R3 variants, but do not expect to like, okay, I put it there, it's not there yet. So be mindful. That's why you will see different YouTubers talking about differently, because again, everyone's eyes are different. I expect Mark 6, Mark 7 technology to be like, okay, we done, we good, now you can trust it with your eyes closed. Like, do you remember how hard it was fingerprinting in the early days of Android? Same thing. Now, face recognition, because it has like so much data, it's like, hey, what can we do with this data? It's like, okay, what if we prioritize faces, not only person, like the older cameras were like, okay, face, focus on faces, like, but it had no context which face to focus on. Nowadays it can analyze which face it's looking at, meaning you can put it 10 photographs, basically take 10 of that. It's like, okay, select this face, it's like, I got this, meaning it can ignore everything else. Meaning you have a cricket team, you're focusing on them, it's like, I got this, and a fan walks by or a referee walks by, it's like, I can ignore it. So that's, for many people, is like shut up, take money, especially in wedding scenarios where you have a lot of people, but you always want to make sure the bride is there, because again, bride might explode if she does not have the center of attention. So it's on you. In those sort of scenarios, people are like, okay, just take the bride photos, groom photo, bride would be first priority, groom would be second priority, their parents and all that. So those people will always be in focus, even in a group photograph. So that is like, for many people, it's like, shut up, take money. Be mindful, it is available in R5 and all that. Now, the biggest difference in memory is this has dual C Fast Express Type B card. Although I'm a bit disappointed in the performance, in every buffer testing, people are saying that it has buffer. It should not have buffer. Now, what does that mean? That simply means, again, the circuit wise, you need a buffer. You have a buffer, but buffer dumps the data into the memory. If the memory is slow, of course, buffer will fill up. That's the limit of all the cheap camera. But this is using two NVMe SSDs. These are NVMe SSDs. The literal protocol is NVMe SSD. So these puppies should be working more than fast enough to dump all the data quickly. And again, I know Canon has done that in the past, where they had DX1 or DX2 series, where they used one generation before this C Fast Express fast system, where it was like, it was so fast that if you click the buffer, it had buffer, but buffer was emptying so fast, it was never filling up. But here it's not that. So So I think it's a bit, I think the pipeline from the SoC to the card is not that good. It could have been a bit better. And I'm like, bit underwhelming. It does have 2.5G Ethernet, so thankfully they have realized that, 100 Mbps pipeline dumping file, not that good. So having 2.5 Gbps, that is 250 megabytes of read-write speed, would be really, really helpful. And again, is it necessary? Many scenarios, shut up, take money. For many people, it's like shut up, take money. There is no discussion about this. And it has inbuilt GPS, which again, I thank Nikon for this. They started, I'm not sure there is embedding the GPS time code or not. Most likely it is, but it's a really good thing. Finally, full-size HDMI, because thank you. I have no idea why the heck this giant R3 body has micro HDMI. I do not know, and I want to boom the product manager who's like, what if we created e-waste? Oh yeah, I want to boom that. But thankfully, better improvements have been done. And basically what you are buying with this is minor improvement in the sensor, major improvement in the algorithms because of the digic accelerator. That's what you are paying for. So this camera, you must have paid attention. The world is feeling a bit underwhelming. That's the word of the day. It's like, it's a bit underwhelming. Why? Well, it feels like cost cutting. Why the heck it does not have 4-axis multi-angle LCD, meaning like what you have in A9, where you have screen that flips in and all that. That's awesome. But here's it also tilts and shifts. And be mindful, that's the same thing done by Nikon, same thing done by Panasonic, same thing done by Fuji, same thing done by Sony in their flagship system, where it's like, okay, what if we take care of everybody? You want flip out screen? Awesome, we got you, fam. What if you want vertical axis remain locked? We got you, fam. But Canon is like, what if we charge the same flagship prices but do not give you the flexibility that this system applies? It's like, why? So that part, like, no, bit underwhelming. Another megapixel is low. Now let this be clear, it's not the problem with 24 megapixel. A9 is also 24 megapixel. It's just the speed is not high enough, meaning we have a clear understanding of this world right now, where it's like, hey, you want 50 megapixel, you get, let's say, 50 FPS. You want 24 megapixel, now you get 120 FPS, right? There is a give and take. Basically, 4K only gives you 60 FPS. Full HD gives you 120 FPS. You see, there is a very clear understanding. If you reduce the megapixels or resolution, we should get higher speed, especially in a goddamn flagship. So if you are telling that digic processor working with digic accelerator can give you 60 FPS in 8K, 8K translates to 33 megapixel frame at raw, that simply means this puppy was crippled. It should be able to do far more than 40 FPS. Far more than 40 FPS. So that's why the speed, it does not feel right. Now again, it could be that that extra line that it does require a bit more compute and it's their first try, so it's not as smooth. That could be there, but it feels underwhelming because you're not going to notice that, oh, the sensor has this different. It's like, you're not going to notice it. It's not like global shutter. So that part is like, megapixel is not the problem. If there was like 120 raw, people were like, shut up, take money. But it's not. It's only 40. Another thing is the pre-buffer is only 20 frames. Why? That's a bit less. That's another part. It's like, why? It's like, it could be more. And be mindful, I did talk about like Sony A9 Mark III. Looks like somebody was working on it for a long time. It has a lot of subtle touches. One of the touch it has is that when you use its pre-buffer mode, it gives a mark where it's like, okay, this is where you did the full press. So you can easily find where you're looking for, what you're looking for. So this cannot. I'm like, that seems almost like a rush. It's like, if Sony already released it, you know what they have done, and I can guarantee you that's not patented. So it's like, why don't you? It's like, these are subtle things that shows like, be mindful, modern cameras are way too powerful. Power was never an issue in the camera. It was the UI and UX, user experience was horrendous. It shows the same thing. And again, the throughput, basically the 20 shots you take before, you cannot control it. For many people who are like, hey, I would only like 10. Maybe keep the speed, shrink the gap, or maybe like, extend the gap but shrink the FPS. You can't control it. You do not have that vector control. So that's a underwhelming part. And 0.5 second of pre-buffer is like, And horizontal line detector is the only thing that is feeding this digic accelerator, which is a bit different compared to R5's Mark III. So Mark II, sorry. So fundamentally, what you are paying for is just a bit different sensor with a faster readout. So for many people, it's not that great. And be mindful, it does not have 120 FPS or 480 FPS, full HD video. I'm not even talking like, downsampler, like at least have that. That was the people's experience. Like, it's a flagship. Give high FPS or give like, high resolution. What if you don't give both? Then people are like, dude, you're charging way too much for it. And it's like, it has the latest and greatest FPS. Yes, Sony has 120 FPS, Nikon has 120 FPS. Even if they have hit rate that are only 50%, they're still gonna outcompete you. And let this be very clear. Nowadays, we have crossed the threshold where focus is an issue. You are like, yeah, I'm predicting it further and all that, but photographers still have a job. It's like, they got this. They're good. They're good. So that's one thing. Like, again, if it had 120 FPS, then the wings will come out. Then it's like, okay, Sony 120, you see it's like it's missing 1 or 2 frames. It's like, I got this. Then we're like, whoa. But there is no whoa. It's like, So that's why people are so underwhelmed. Again, megapixel is not the issue. It's the slow speed in comparison is the limitation. 8 megapixel translates to 33 megapixel like a frame, still frames. And if you can do RAW on that, this processor and this accelerator combo can do far more in terms of throughput. See, the only expectation is either it was crippled or that the horizontal line that they have added is requiring far more compute on the accelerator part, maybe. So what can we expect in the future? Well, reality is, for most people, R5 Mark II is a far better value, meaning how much money you're giving and how much oomph you're getting out. This is far more compelling. I can understand for people like, dude, I need dual C. That's up to you. But this is more than good enough for more than heavy enough load. It's like, we got this. We got this. And video is not even competition. This is a proper video camera. So more than good enough. And in terms of like, it does not get there where when it's competing with like, other flagship scenarios. For example, A9 Mark III, which is cheaper. How the heck a Sony camera is cheaper? Which, mind you, 24 megapixel, nobody complains about it. Why? Because when Nikon released a 120 FPS camera, they're like, we can only do it JPEG. But again, camera photography is about temporal resolution, the moment in time. So a moment in time that is precious in JPEG is good enough compared to not having that moment. This is like, what if you have the moment, but at RAW? It's like, I got you, fam. This is like, what if we don't give you that moment? It's like, sir, you're charging this sort of prices. It's like, again, for people who are focused on that moment, they may be like, even this would be better. So that's not there. And A1, again, A1 is like, hey, we give you same FPS that Canon gives, but we give you higher resolution, 50 megapixel. So you see, like, people are like, what's the point? And Z9 again from Nikon offering, and again, here's the deal, remove all of that, you buy EOS R3 that has far better value compared to other system. Like, again, you can buy a cheaper body and buy quality lenses that will directly affect your output quality. So this does not seem a genuinely good camera. Best explanation I have is like, they were trying with global shutter. How do I know they were trying with it? Look into how many release article Canon corporations have published about global shutter few years ago. Few years, I think like 2-3 years ago, they were like, we are working on global shutter. Now we have security camera that has global shutter. Now we are releasing movie camera that has global shutter. They never shut up about it. So I know they are working on it. Guaranteed, absolute. Now, there's a very good chance their Silicon division they made a promise to EOS division, and it's like, EOS division like, bro, where's the sensor? It's like, here's the sensor, and the sensor is like, the dynamic range is not good enough, because they could mean 3 players. Sony Semiconductor, On Semiconductor, if I'm not mistaken, that's the red supplier, and that they are the only one that has global shutter that almost matches 14 stops of dynamic range. That is like shut up, take money. So that, but again, the price is idiotically high. Sony is low cost. So Canon may be trying to do the same thing, but they may have received lower yield or lower quality in dynamic range in terms of global shutter. So that's the best explanation I have why this camera looks so weird, so to say. Again, cost is too high. Let that be clear. If this camera was cheaper, it's like, boom. If it was like, R3 kind of price, little bit more, or they have dropped the price of R3 and made this R3 Mark II, awesome. But it does not look good. But again, I'm very happy with this puppy. This does add competition. We want competition. The more competition we'll have, the better our life will get. So I want competition. But this does not, it ain't right. This ain't right. So this was my presentation on Canon EOS R1. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show my extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.